There's the familiar and the unfamiliar, and your brain knows the difference. And sometimes your brain will get in the way of you getting visible when it detects the unfamiliar. Today, we're going to find out how you can help the brain shift away from the fear of the unfamiliar. Welcome to Show Up and Be Seen. I'm Valerie McTavish, sharing insights and inspirations to help you get visible so that you can increase your impact and grow your business. Joining me on the show today is Maria Conde. She is a life and business strategist, and I am super excited to welcome you here today. Hello, Maria.
Hello, thanks for having me today, Valerie.
So, before we dive into what you've learned about the brain and some tips that you have for anyone who's looking to get more visible in their business, let's talk about you. Let's talk a little bit about your journey to getting visible. Did you struggle with it?
I did. I was very much an introvert, and I wanted to be that extroverted person, but it just wasn't natural for me. And yeah, I had a journey to get through to get there.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that. As an introvert, what were some of the things that kind of kept you feeling like you needed to stay in your shell? What were those feelings?
Yeah, I just didn't want to be judged, which most people go through. And I see people that were really, really out there, and it's like, "Well, how do you do that?" And it's like, it just wasn't natural for me to do that. And, I had a couple of experiences about through my life that actually forced me into that space the hard way. And yeah, it was not the best way to get there.
Well, I want to go back to something you said, which is you're seeing all these other people and they're putting themselves out there and you're thinking, how do you do that? It looks so easy
Yeah,
when you do it. Right? This is the biggest lie I think about online
yeah,
is that it always looks like when someone is doing it, they're comfortable doing it. What we don't know is they're like a ball of nerves inside half the time.
yeah,
And they've worked
exactly.
really hard to get that comfortable. Right? This comparison thing
Yeah,
drives us crazy.
it does.
So
And
how
not even
did
just in the
you
online world. How did I?
so how did you get
Well,
over it?
when I Yeah, this is way back in my career, and I was actually in the corporate world at the time. I was actually learning to be a facilitator, and I thought, "This is great. It's gonna put me out there. I'm gonna learn to be visible." And I usually spoke really, really quietly, and nobody could hear me when I was trying to talk. And we were all training, so there's 30 of us in the room, and we all have to speak, and no one can hear me. And so the teacher grabbed me by the hand, and I'm an adult at this point, right? I'm in my 30s. And she brought me to the front of the room and she goes, "I want you to sing loud enough for the whole room to stop doing what they're doing." And everyone's talking and practicing. And she wanted me to sing above the whole entire, and I can't sing to start with, so let alone talk. Talking would have been one thing, but singing, I was like trying so hard not to start crying. And all my peers there, and yeah,
I can't even imagine. I am just horrified thinking about being in that position.
yeah, it was awful.
But did it turn something for you? Did it click something for
It
you?
did somehow. And I think it was just, some of the things I'll talk about today is some of the things that all of it got me to where I am today. It's not just one thing, but that was sort of the catalyst to it all that started moving me in the direction I am now.
I think that's such a good point because we have these kinds of experiences. We push our boundaries, we push ourselves out of the comfort zone, or someone pushes us out of the comfort zone. And and you start to realize it's okay out
Yeah.
here. I'm outside of the comfort zone, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Like everything's okay.
And
And I think that that's something that is hard for people to hear when they're just so comfortable in that
yeah.
comfort zone.
And that's that familiar and unfamiliar piece. And that
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about this. What's going on in our brain when we're categorizing the familiar and the unfamiliar?
Yeah, so when you're going to do something that's not familiar to you, like speaking, your brain is meant to keep you alive. And its sole purpose is to keep you alive. And so when you're going to do something that is triggering everything internally in you and your flight and fear responses and all those things, it wants to shut everything down because it needs to keep you alive. It doesn't know that when you open your mouth and just say hello in a different setting that you're going to be okay. It just doesn't want to do it. And so That's that unfamiliar territory for the brain. It doesn't wanna go there. But the more you do it, and I encourage people to take those baby steps and just push yourself a little bit, your brain will get more familiar with it. And it's like, "Oh, okay, she lived through that. That's okay. She's good. Let's try again," and just those little bits. And, me being forced in front of the classroom like that, I survived, I lived through it, and the brain's like, "Okay, she's okay." And
Yeah, it's interesting that you're describing it, and what you're talking about is a safety zone,
yes,
right? There's this the brain is telling us stay
yeah,
safe, right? And so that's a safety zone, and we know that. If
yeah,
we are wandering into a dangerous neighborhood at night, we know, okay,
it kicks
not safe, right?
in.
You don't climb into the tiger's pen, not safe.
Yeah,
But there's a huge difference between the comfort zone
yeah,
and the safety zone.
yeah,
And I think that is kind of what you're talking about is recognizing
yeah,
that you have to be able to judge the difference. Is it really unsafe or are you
yeah.
just
And
uncomfortable?
the brain doesn't know that. It just knows that
Right.
when all those things kick in inside of you, that it knows it needs to shut down to keep you safe because your adrenaline's going and all those things, which is natural. And it doesn't know if it's, you're chasing a lion or you're being chased by a lion or if you're just going to talk in front of some people, right? It's,
Yeah, that reaction is the same,
yeah, what's
right?
going
The
on
adrenaline still
internally.
kicks in.
Yeah, all the hormones and all the adrenalines that kick in, all that's the same. But we live in that space a lot these days, unfortunately. Too much.
And I think that's an important point because when you're stressed,
Yeah.
right, you are already at a
Yes.
heightened state.
Yeah.
And so anything that you do that feels dangerous or that feels uncomfortable or that threatens that safety
Yeah.
is adding on
Yeah.
to
Another layer.
something that's already elevated.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So step 1, calm down.
calm down, yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the other steps that people can take, these little baby
So,
steps?
yeah, I always get people to take those baby steps, just little bits of getting out of your comfort zone, and especially if it's being visible online. I work with, quite a few entrepreneurs that are just trying to do that. First, Facebook Live. Well, don't put yourself in a situation like we are in right now. Do something build your own Facebook group, or like you have a group where you can just be safe and just practice. And practice in your bathroom mirror if you have to, just to get over some of those hurdles. But a couple of the other things can I mention a couple of the other things that I was going to talk about?
Yeah, before you do though, I just want to say if you're watching this inside the Show Up and Be Seen Facebook group, this is a safe space for you to practice going live. So, take this extra step,
Yeah.
take the nudge from us to go ahead and practice and give it a try.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear some of those other steps.
So the other thing that I do, and I do this a lot even now, and I know a lot of people do this. Major speakers do it. I was actually watching Grey's Anatomy the other day, and they were doing this big, big surgery, and they started doing power poses, and putting your hands on your hip, feet, yeah, exactly, hands on the hip, feet planted firmly on the ground. Sorry, my kitty cat's having a moment in the background. um, the joys of working from home these days. Um, yeah, so just standing really firmly in your being strong in your presence. And you need to hold it for a few minutes. And what it does is it changes you physiologically to be able to it makes you more confident, and it all kicks in. And you have to do it for a little bit, not just like,
I think you have to buy into it
I think
too.
there's like I think it's either 3 to 5 minutes, I think is the number. It's Amy Cuddy who her book on it is really great, and she's got, some YouTube videos on it too. And there's a
I
couple
love it.
different
I
power
love
poses,
it.
even putting your arms up in the air, and yeah, you just gotta really own your power, right? And that changes the whole chemistry in your body, and that's gonna help you, be more confident when you need to open your mouth and start talking.
Okay, I'm handing out high fives to anyone who's watching and doing the power pose right now.
Yes,
Do it right now. Do it for the rest of this interview.
love it.
I think that's so fantastic, and this is one of those things where it might feel silly, but you are
Yeah,
actually tricking your brain,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, making it work. The last thing is to know your information. So, like, even before I came on, I got my little cheat sheet with me here, and I just, practice, 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 especially if you're doing something that's you're not comfortable with. And if you're having to talk, doing a Facebook Live or anything, just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. It's definitely what I teach in the video marketing mastery program. But one of the things that I think is really important here is to not rehearse your script so much
Yes.
that it becomes, sort of inauthentic,
Yes.
right? You want to kind of keep yourself in the moment, keep yourself in the space. I think a lot of times the women that I work with when we're doing video stuff, they get kind of hung up
Yes.
because they're trying to recite it
They want
perfectly.
everything to be perfect. And that perfectionism is something that so many have to deal with, right? And it just take the more you do it, the easier it gets though, and you just have to get over those the first few times I did Facebook Lives, and it was like I had all my notes, and it was all curated, and I had tried to have I built my own, what are those things that they use to, teleprompters.
Right.
And then now it's just like put a couple notes on, it's just so I don't lose my spot, and I just run with it. And you do get used to it after a while.
Yeah, and even to reference,
Yeah,
I always say if you're doing a Facebook Live and you're just kind of going on bullet points, there's nothing wrong with
yeah,
going, okay, let me just have a quick look here. I want to make sure I got everything that I wanted to share with
yeah.
you. One more thing,
Yeah, and I do that all
right?
the time. I'll just say, and I just say I want to double check that I got everything because I had a lot to say today, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, we're just human beings connecting with other human beings. And I think we forget that when we're talking to a camera.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just be yourself. That's what people wanna see.
Okay, so you went from the horror of having to sing in front of a bunch of people,
Yeah,
and that was kind of the first. I won't even call that a baby step because that feels
that
like
was
being,
horrific.
shoved in a cold lake. But
Yeah,
nonetheless, it was the first sort of foray outside of your comfort zone
yeah,
when it came to, owning your power and speaking up for yourself and being a little bit more visible.
yeah,
Now you've taken a lot of other little baby steps to being totally comfortable doing lives, putting yourself out there all the time,
yeah,
showing up in photos, showing up for your business on a regular basis.
yeah,
So, what has that meant for your business? What has it meant to actually start showing up instead of just kind of being a behind the
yeah.
scenes, having a nice website and hoping people find it?
Well, obviously your business financially gets much better, the obvious, but it's also way less stressful. And I just don't I don't get a whole bunch of anxiety every day. It's like, "Oh my god, I gotta go on this I have to do another live today." And even today, like, I had we were set up for today, and it's like half hour before, it's like, I just wanna prep my brain for this for a few minutes, make sure I got all my notes right. But, before I'd be stressed for a week about it, right? Where now it's just I just look at my calendar and I just, "Okay, what do I need to do for this?" And there's so much more confidence that comes over time. And when you have that confidence, more people believe in you too, and your message and what you're doing, as opposed to if you're sitting there going, hiding behind everything, especially if you're going to hire a coach, right? Do you want a coach that's, like quivering in the background, shaking, right? Or do you want somebody who can stand up and own their worth?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to know that there's no shortcut. There's no going from, being horrified to, put yourself out there for your business to suddenly being confident.
Yeah.
It's a path, it's a journey, and it does take these
Yeah.
steps to move you forward. So those baby steps that you talked
Yeah.
about, so critical. I love the power pose. It's something that people can do every single day
Yeah.
or at least right before they go live.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
schedule a live and then show up a minute beforehand.
No.
Give
No.
yourself the moment to calm
Yeah.
yourself down, strike that power pose, get comfortable with what you want to share,
Yeah.
and get excited about who you're connecting with and
That's
who
a really
this is the thing that I think so many
yeah.
people miss. Don't forget that this message is for someone out there. Someone needs to hear it. So that's why you're sharing that information.
Absolutely. And that
Because
path, you have to take that path, but the more you do it, the faster it'll go. If you sit back and hide, it's gonna take 10 times as long.
Yep, little journeys, little baby steps outside the comfort zone. Eventually you'll
Yeah,
get more comfortable going a little further, a little
exactly, and
further, a little further.
all of a sudden, you're gonna be like, "How did I get here?" Yeah,
And you'll be like, "What comfort zone? Where was that?
exactly, and that's when
It's my world now."
that's your unfamiliar becoming familiar.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So if people wanna work with you, what is it that you're helping female entrepreneurs do besides gain confidence?
Yeah, so I work with female entrepreneurs to in that first 100,000, range, because that's where a lot of the mindset work comes in. Most of that is about inner work. not so much the tactics. There's lots of things out there that teach you how to run different challenges and launches and make courses and stuff, but if you can't promote it yourself, and that comes from you. And I work with a lot of women that are coming out of like a corporate environment that have been super, super successful. And when you come to be an entrepreneur, that success doesn't always translate. So we do a lot of work around confidence, wealth mindset. The first time you need to say your price, it's a disaster for them.
Right, that's a whole
Yeah,
other,
so we work
comfort
on all
zone
those
circle that you're in, yeah.
principles, and I do that in a group coaching membership style program.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm going to put the description to Maria's website and to that program in the description. So I'll put that link there and you'll be able to click through and see if maybe it's a fit to work with Maria if you are looking to not just increase your visibility, but increase your income through some mindset work and getting confident that way. So I will put that link in the description. Maria, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your amazing tips. And I just want to say I feel much more confident striking my power pose. Thanks again to you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Valerie.
And remember, you got into business to help someone solve a problem, and you can't do that if you stay hidden. So show up for them, show up for your business, and show up for yourself. We'll see you next time.